In the first two tapes, I went over some of the basic techniques. First tape was basic techniques on how to double and single. Second tape was to get you to understand that there are alternative ways to be able to take someone down. Now I'm going to start getting techniques that are a little more advanced, so you're going to have to really, really understand the principles and apply those principles to the advanced techniques that I'm about to go over. In NHB fighting and a lot of other fighting, sometimes you end up with distances that are in close quarters. In close quarter fighting, is you can lose the most energy or you can save the most energy. And what I mean by that is that when you're in tight, a lot of times you're struggling here is a struggle that he wants you to get into to lose energy. But what I'm going to teach you is I'm going to teach you how to save energy in here and effectively take the man down to the ground to where you can control him on the ground. First off, the position we're in right here is called over and under. I am over one arm and I'm under the other arm. What I like to do first off in this position is I like to establish head position. Usually I'll end up trying to dominate by pushing my head to his head. Now by doing that, I can definitely control more of his body. If he has his head pushed in mine back here, I can't get to his body and lock effectively, or I can't attack him effectively. So the first thing, if you do end up in a clinch, say we're in an open fight and he rushes me, he clinches with me here, is the first thing I have to do is know that I have to control a head position. I can control the head position if he's butting me here with his head, push his head to the side, get good head position. The second most important thing is to be able to control where his arms are. I don't want him to be able to get this arm too high because then I can't use mine. What I like to do here, first off, is I like to do a body lock. And it's one explosive move that turns this position from being a neutral position to an effective offensive position. When I establish head position and I establish my arm, I keep it tight to my body, my elbow down towards my hip, and what I like to do is usually with the distance being separated here. In NHB fighting, you have to be cautious because you're allowed to knee and you're allowed to strike here into the belly and also to the head if there was more distance. So you have to be cautious of that. What I like to do is close the distance the best that I can, and this is what you do. You step in tight. When you step in tight, at the same time you draw the body close tight to you. So you step in and lock. You step in and lock and pinch. When you're in the over and under position, you have to establish dominance. It's the most important thing. Head position establishes dominance. When you're in here, usually a guy will take his hips and back his hips away, which makes it very difficult to be able to throw him or take him down to the ground. You don't want to use a whole bunch of energy in here. You can end up turning the fight or the situation into a lot more difficult energy expending when you're in here. What you need to do is you need to explode, and when you explode, I want you to come in with your hips, lock with your hands. And if you watch what happens, just as I showed you in previous situations about trapping the leg with your legs, that's the position I want to try to get to. And what I mean by explode, you'll come in and you'll lock. You'll close this distance with your hip and you'll trap this leg here. So you step here like this. And it doesn't matter if you're up against the ropes. It doesn't matter if you're up against a fence in an octagon. It doesn't matter if you're up against a wall and a bar. When you're in this situation here, you want to be able to close this distance as explosively as you can, and you want to be able to trap that leg. Without that leg, you're a fish out of water. You got to be able to close this distance and trap this leg. So if he was resisting me and his foot was back and his hips are back, I can still explode with my hips and lock on with my hands and trap that leg. It's a big trap. That's my objective. Now if you look at a couple things that happened there, I missed it the first time, but what enables me to get it is I keep hopping and hopping. And watch this. Here's what happens. You resist me, and I hop, 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 until I get where I need to be. There it is. And when I get to that position, as you saw on tape 2, is that I make a table here and I fall right to the ground, controlling the position by making my pelvic parallel to the ground. It's not an easy position to be in, but it's a position that you need to win from. You need to be able to control this position with your head, with your arms, keeping them tight here. You can tell you the easiest setup is to pull him down to get him to stand up and then come into your lock. So I pull down with this hand, and as he comes up, I come in for my lock position. So for here, I pull him down, he comes up. When he comes up, I step, pinch, sit down, and deliver. When this happens at realistic speed, you'll see how explosive it has to be in order for it to happen. Another opportunity you have when you're in over and unders, the reason why I place emphasis on control is you want to control his ability to be able to strike you, his ability to be able to move, and everything else. If I'm in here tight and I have good head position, I'm blocking this arm and I'm blocking that arm, the only thing I have to worry about is whether or not he can strike with his knees. And I can block those as they come up. I'm still in control. I can still generate offense out of this position. I just showed you a step lock to here to a pin. Now another opportunity that you have is you have it trip. And it's pretty easy and effective. Is that I'm going to take this arm and I'm going to pull this arm and I'm going to push with this. So it's I'm pulling and I'm pushing. And the object is to get him to step with this leg. And when I step with this leg, when he steps, he creates an opening. When he creates that opening, I step in and I'm going to trip. Now it's the same explosiveness that you use with a body lock. If we're standing here and he's resistant, I pull him, he takes that big step, he opens up. When he opens up, I step through. When I step through, I want to turn and hook and straight down to the ground. Now if you look at what makes it work, through all of the techniques that I've showed you, when I finish on the ground, I finish with my pelvic parallel to the ground with both knees a good base. It's the same thing when he's here. When he's standing up with me, to the arm that I have that he's underhooked on, I'm overhooked on. I want to weight that arm down, it weights that leg so he can't move it. And also I push, weight that leg down, I step through. When I step through, I'm giving him my hips, but I'm exploding. And I step through and I explode down. And if you look at when I hit the ground, I keep my hands posted so he can't roll. My legs are out, and I'm ready to go on to the next position. Once again, it's a must to control, to watch here for the knees. I can set him up like me and him on the other side. He doesn't want that. He changes his feet position. When he changes it and pulls it in, I'm going to inside trip here. It's a great effective tool to use when you're in tight quarters because you are limited in what you can do offensively. But the techniques that you use in the body lock and the inside trip, they'll help you to be able to create a position that's neutral or to your disadvantage to turn it into your advantage. And it doesn't matter where it is, in the octagon, in the ring, or on the street. These are effective tools to use. Another technique that you can use in the clinch, it's a little more difficult because it's a throw. But if you studied your first fundamental parts, you might be able to utilize this as an effective tool to get the guy out of the clinch on the ground into a position where you can submit him. When I'm here and a guy takes that leg that far back, he's taken away my inside trip because that leg's far back, I can't pull him into it. He's taken away my body lock because I can't hop to his leg because he's that far back. But what he gives me from this position is he gives me a really easy arm throw. And I do an easy arm throw by locking onto his elbow. There's a little notch here on his elbow, and I use my overhook hand to lock onto that notch, and I use my underhook hand, I just drop it right here from his back underneath his arm. And when I do that, at the same time, I just turn and I want to put my butt to his pelvic, right to there. And when I get to that position, I mean, it happens really quickly. He has that leg back, and he's not giving me this. He's not giving my inside trip because that's that far back. So he's got to give me something else. Something else has to open up. And what he opens up is he opens up just a very simple arm throw. And when I'm in this position, I hook here, I take my underhook hand, I throw it under, and I go butt to butt. And when I go butt to butt, I just bow. Watch again from the other side. When I'm here, he's taken away my body lock, he's taken away my inside trip. I slide this hand under. When I slide this hand under, I step and go butt to butt. When I'm butt to butt, I just bow, putting my knees on the ground and then following by my head. Here, then my head. And from this position, I definitely want to improve. I come up to the body. I have different locks that I can do from here. This technique that I'm showing you is definitely an advanced technique because most of the NHB people who are watching this will go, gosh, he's giving him your back. But if you're doing it and you're doing it as explosively as you should be doing it, you're only there for a split second. And that split second, you have to be able to explode with your hips and throw the guy off of you. Now this is when you get to this position here, it is the most important position because he has an opportunity to throw a leg in here and stop the throw, and now he has my back. I don't want to be there. From this position here, when I turn, I have to immediately go to my knees and then turn my head down and bow. So I'm here and I bow. And it throws him. And literally, from here, giving him my back, I bow. Just literally holding onto that arm and bow down. And when I do that, I can generate enough power and leverage to throw him. So if I sped it up a little bit and we get to this position here, and he's not giving me my trip, he's not giving me anything, I throw this arm under here, and I bow. And that gives all the momentum and power that I need to get him off of me. And now guess what? He's on the ground. He's where I want him to be. Another technique that you can use when you're in the over and unders, and a guy is taking his hips far enough away from you to where you can't utilize your inside trip or your body lock, And it's difficult to be able to arm spin because he's trapping this arm in. He's really trapping this arm in, and you can't clear it to be able to arm spin. A technique that I like to use, really simple, if he's taking that leg so far back, is use a little foot sweep. What you got to do to make this work is you have to pull with the arm that he has trapped, and you have to block with the other hand. And at the same time when you do that, all you have to do is just hook this foot, and he falls over it. It's like if I stepped on this foot and I pushed him to the side, he'd fall over. Same principle, except to get a little oomph on it, what you're going to do is you're going to get the motion. He pushes a little bit. He has that foot back where he can't do much. I'm going to block, I'm going to rotate, and I'm going to pick. And he falls right over. But the effective part that makes this really, really useful is if he takes away the options that you have to be able to execute an offensive hold in here. To take this position and turn it into an advantage for you. He's not letting you body lock. You can't get to it. You can't inside trip him. He's not letting that arm loose. Well, you got to keep continuing. You want to pull on this, you want to push on this, and you want to pick his foot. You don't even have to look down. You know it's going to be there. You know he has to be standing on something. And what you do is you hit and you rotate. Here. Right down to the ground. Now you're in position to control him. And you notice again, I'm flat, I'm posted, and I'm ready to go ahead and continue in the fight. Again, from over and under position, if he's taking away all the other options, the underhook side has to pull heavy because it really weights that foot even more. And if he's this staggered with this foot back, what you need to do from here is you need to block here. And if you look, I trap his elbow too. I punch and I block. And when I punch and I block, I step with my foot and I rotate. And when I do this, I'm rotating him over his foot. I'm posting his foot with my foot. And I rotate, punch, and follow him down to the ground. And from this position, I'm always squaring myself up right away. I'm always posting my hand. I don't want to get in a scramble situation on the ground when I can control it right off the bat. Sometimes when you get in over and under position, you end up in either your leg traps here, which will go over. Sometimes you lose position, sometimes you end up getting here. For him, he is in an advantageous position because he has a lot more power to suck my hips in, and once he gets my hips and center of gravity off balance, it's a lot easier to be able to take me down to the ground. In competitions, NHB, I've never been taken down to the ground. I've been in a variety of positions, and I'm going to show you right now what's a really advanced technique in which by this point you should have a good feel for what you can and cannot do. So this technique right here, it's another throw. It's similar to the arm throw, except this time what happens is I'm going to lock both hands. I'm going to lock both hands. Now, he's already thinking, oh man, I got him in a good position. Now what happens here is if you watch my feet, I'm going to walk my feet in. I want to split his legs open. I want to split his legs open. And at the same time, I'm pulling his body tight to mine. So he's here, and at the same time, I pull his body tight. Now I'm in control of the position. And what I like to do from here is I like to load him up, and I like to pop him. And what I mean by that is he's here, is I load him up here, now guess what? He's going to go for a little ride. Okay? He takes a position where it's an advantage from him. I get aggressive in this position. I get proactive. I lock him up. And when I lock him up, I throw him back. Okay? One more time. Is when he's in here, lost position. He gets aggressive. Now I turn proactive. I lock him up tight. And from here, I throw him. And that's where I want to be. This hold right here, this technique, taking a double over situation and turning it to your advantage. There's a couple things you have to be aware of. Is that one is you have to make a commitment, a full commitment to do it. And the second part is in practice, you have to be very, very much aware of your partner. And those two things in mind, if you make the commitment and you're pulling in and you're locking him tight and you're arching and throwing him, you can turn this position into an offensive position. And a lot of people think that, man, if he's double overs, I'm in a lot of trouble. And of course, in any other circumstances, you would be. But if you do the technique right, and you lock a hold of him, and you step up and walk your legs up to him, you're going to turn it into an offensive position for you. So once again for you, is you lock here, tight. I'm locked tight. And when I lock tight, I pop my hips, I walk him in and pop him, and let him go. So right from here, I walk in and let him go. Except normally, if it was real, it's my training partner, so I like him. So I want to be able to cover him and stay on top of him. We'll look at this again from this angle. And if you look at it from this angle, there's a couple inside secrets I can do. I take my knuckles and I turn them, and when I turn them, I lock and push away. See that right there? Lock right either on his sternum or I lock right on his diaphragm. And when I step in for the throw, I'm stepping in and I'm locking him tight. With my hands balled, I can do that. And with an opponent, with my training partner, I don't do it. With my opponent in AHB, if he thinks that he's going to suck my hips in the second that he starts to walk his hips in like he wants to bear hug me, is when he's setting himself up for the throw. So if his hips are away and he's coming in and he wants it, I let him have it. In the real fighting, I hold on to him and I stay locked to him. And I'm right on top of him and I become his worst nightmare. Sometimes when you're in the over and under, I just showed you that you can get aggressive in here. Not always do you win every fight that you're in these positions. Sometimes you end up getting in a position where the guy ends up sliding, scooting behind you. I go to commit, the guy slides his head under, he scoots behind me. Now I have to be careful in this position because there's a couple things that can happen. If we were in the octagon and we had a fence in front of us, we're in a ring, we had a rope, we're in any situation where this is happening, I have to be careful that A, I don't get lifted off the ground like that. I have lost position. What I need to do to protect against that is I hook my feet into his feet. He can't lift himself off the ground. If you look really carefully down here, I can hook either side. He can't lift me off the ground. Can't lift. He can try to pop me and lift me. Can't lift me off the ground. Now from here, I can still maintain good position. I can also execute offensive position. Like I've said continually from the beginning all the way till now to the advanced, I want to be proactive. I want to make him react to me. I want to be the aggressor in the situation, but also I want to be patient. There's a fine line between that being proactive, creating offense, and being patient. I take the opportunities when they present themselves. From this position here, what I like to do is I like to trap and arm. Just trap one side. It doesn't matter what side. I'm going to trap this arm. I don't want him to be able to have free hands where he can come up, start reaching around, maybe get a choke on me, take and get whatever hold he's trying to get. I want to control the situation. I trap one arm. I force that arm down to my hip. Force it right down to my hip. And then what I do is I do a cross scissors step here. I just cross my legs, and when I cross them, I'm going to try to get this knee to the back of his leg. Right here. Now we're right back to where we were before. In this position, I just create a table, and I make him fall over the table. It's the same thing when we were in over and unders before, and I did a body lock. I created a table. Now he just falls over the table. Well, the same position exists here. When he's here, I take one big cross step back and I create a table right there. And what I do to make it work is I take the hand that I trapped and I pull it and then I just fall down. I just took a potentially dangerous position and I turned it into an advantageous position for me. I took a position that he would look at like I got his back, and I turned it into an offensive position for me. I took an advantage of a position that for him, most people would think that he was the one that was in the better position. Once again, to make it work, I have to be able to, and even if his hips are tight, it might take one or two tries to force my legs back there. But the idea is I trap this hand. I trap this hand, and he's locked on. I might have to fake him and fake him back, all the while being totally aware that he can lift me, blocking against his lift. And what I do is I step back that big step, I make that table, and then if I really, really pop my hips into him, I can create a lot of air. So right from here back, and I go down to the ground, and then controlling the position. A lot of times from the in-close positions, when you're in over and unders, you can control the position by forcing him either up or down. And what I mean by that is either you're going to force him to stand up with you, or you can force him down. Okay? A little technique that I use is with my underhook side here, is I use a skip step, a little fake step in. And that's to get him to react, to think that either I'm going to come in with my hips, or that I'm going to lock him up and throw him. What I utilize here is I use a skip step. We're in here tight, we're fighting away. What I like to do is I like to skip step in, just fake like that. He gets a reaction. And with that reaction, it creates a little bit of space. And with that space, what I like to do is take his head, stuff his head down. So right from here, I skip step in, and then I push here, and I put his head underneath my arm. I go here, then to here. Now I'm in control. I'm totally in control of this position. So if you look at it again, we're in here tight, over and under position here. I skip step in to fake. Skip step in, bang him on the head, set his head underneath my armpit. I don't set it, I bang it underneath my armpit. So it's right from here, skip step, here. Now you notice what his natural reaction was. His natural reaction was to reach down and grab my leg. And it's actually, I'm glad that he did it, because what happens is you got to be careful in this position when you snap him down that you're not pulling him into your legs. What I'm doing is I'm lowering my level with him in order to block him from coming in. But what I want is I want to control his head. So we're here. I skip step, pull him down, and when I pull him down, I'm bringing all my body weight down and pulling my legs back as well. Now we're in better position. And from here, there's a whole series of ground techniques that you can use in order to get behind him, in order to apply chokes, in order to finish it. You're in an advantage position when you have his head under your arm and you have control of his other. When you're in here in close quarters and you do have the underhook, and when you want to skip step, you can skip step. Sometimes you don't even have to do that. Sometimes you can just bang his head. And what I'm doing when I bang his head, like I showed you, is you pull it. You pull it down here. And see how I'm rotating? I'm pulling and rotating here. But at the same time that I'm doing this, I'm lowering my level. I don't want him to have control of this position. I'm controlling the position. I'm the one that takes charge. So I have an underhook here. I skip steps. That's if we're in close here. I skip steps to create a little space. Rotating down here, pulling him down. From here, I'm totally in control. Here. Now if you look at it from the other way, you'll see a slight adjustment that I make with my arm. I'm underhooked here. I bang him down. I skip step. I bang him down here. And then what I do from here is as I'm pulling him down, I change it to an overhook. So as I pull him down here, I change it to an overhook here. And if you can look at where I'm grabbing his chin and I'm grabbing his armpit. That's where I want control. I have total control of him in here. In addition to over and unders, other positions that you get into sometimes aren't close quartered and they're not all the way outside of striking or punching range. Sometimes you get into positions where you're in tight like this. And you see it, if you're an NHB fan, I'm sure you've seen every fathomable position. You can be in close ear to ear, guys are exchanging knees, elbows, or some guys not even punching in here. My idea, like I have said continually through this series, is that you have to remain offensive. You have to be proactive. And part of that mentality is looking at every situation, no matter what it is, and looking at it as an opportunity. The opportunity that's created if you're going, it's actually the regular name for it, it's called collar tie. You're tying to where, say, if you had a shirt on, it would be a collar to collar, and you'd be head to head. From this position here, what I like to use is a shrug. And I'll turn you this way so you can see what I'm doing. A shrug from this position is I want to punch his arm. Literally, I'm making a fist, and I'm punching his arm. And when I punch his arm, I'm stepping into his body. And when I'm stepping into his body, I'm punching at the same time. And if you look what happens to my head, when I step in, I'm going to look up and then I'm going to look away. I'm not going to look away towards nothing. I'm going to look away towards his body. So I want to step in, punch, and look away. And it rotates him all the way over. I'll show you from the other side. And it gets a lot smoother the more you practice it. I mean, I literally have practiced this thousands of times. And it works really well when a guy creates pressure in here, because what I like to do is I like to push him down, and as he stands up, I'm going to shrug this arm by and it clears him by. Making a fist, and I step inside his legs, and when I step inside his legs, I punch that arm and I clear it by. Now if you look at what happens, I can do it in slow-mo here, really slow, is I'm looking, punching, letting that arm come by. Now if you look at the important thing here, look what I'm left with. Right here. And as we get on the ground techniques, I'll show you a variety of chokes from in here to where you can really, really immobilize your opponent, choke him, and all that good stuff. So right now though, we need to concentrate on this position. This position here, touch position. When we're in this position, think offense. Head to head here, you want to punch with this hand right on his tricep. With his tricep, punch it, look away, and step between his legs. So I'm stepping between his legs, I'm looking away and punching at the same time. Now from this position here, I can secure in a variety of ways. Here, I can hop. Here, grab. Here, you can force him down to the ground. There's a variety of finishing techniques that you can use from there. The one that I like the best from this position is I like to just force him down to the ground. So when I shrug, step in, punch, shrug him. Here, force him down to the ground. Here, right down to the ground. Guess what? I got his back. Sometimes from this position, as well as being collar to collar, you can be away, guy can be posted on you. If a guy's posted on you, you can control that post you can actually remove that post by posting your own hand against his. And what I'm doing when I do that is I stop him from lowering that to block me. Because if I never posted against that, if I lowered my level to attack his legs and he kept that post there, I could never get past it to get in. What I like to do is I like to post this hand. If it's on me and he's keeping me away with it, I like to post this hand right above the elbow joint. And when I do that, I take my free hand and I attack his leg. So I post the elbow here and I attack his leg. Now, if you look at the transition, what happens, the second that I post, I don't hold it, I just post it for a second. And when I do that, I take my free hand and I attack his legs. So if we're in here and he's posting me really hard, I just tap that and I lower my level. It stops him from being able to push me away when I lower my level. So we're here, I post it, I attack him, and then I finish with the techniques that we saw from the fundamental tape. So I'll show it to you again. Post above the elbow, because if I post below the elbow, obviously, when we went over the reshots, and I showed you when you stop the shot with your forearm shivers, you're going to be able to stop the shot the same way here. If I post him right here, he's going to fold it in and stop my shot. If I post him above the elbow, he's going to be able to do nothing. So here we go. He's posting on me. I lower my level and post his arm. And when I do that, I attack his leg with my free hand. And if you notice my position here, I don't go down to a knee. I'm attacking him right where that zone is that I talked about earlier about fitting into. I'm attacking him right here, right behind his legs, and I finish it. I can finish it in a variety of ways. I'm in perfect position to pick him up, or I can finish it by knocking him down, but yet still controlling the position. I hope you've enjoyed some of these techniques I've shown you in the advanced tape. All these techniques from the foundation all the way to where we are now are just a small fraction of the techniques that exist out there. There's some of the techniques that I use and have used in NHB. I know that if you take one or two of these techniques and you have the patience and diligence to work on it, that you can make yourself into one of the best takedown artists there are out there. But you have to understand that patience and practice are the primary things that you have to use in order to become a master at takedowns.
Well, that is.